Hi, welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 29, sponsored by Sterling Auto Group. I'm Jason Leskiw, and Happy New Year. In the spirit of 1-1, this is going to be a one-on-one episode, just me and you. Jacob Childers is joining us shortly. So we're going to recap. It's Civil War week. We got the boys playing tonight at the Lumberdome, and the girls playing Friday night. Just to recap, coming off last season, the final Civil War boys meeting of last year, RA Long got their first win in several years. I believe it was a 28-game win streak for the Monarchs. And, it was an emotional time for Coach Raleigh Wallace. The players were elated. And, it was one of those situations that, it was a barn burner. Coach Bill Backamus said, hey, this is what Mark Morris, Coach Bill Backamus, as I'm sure you folks know, noted that that's kind of what the fans come, that's what they want to see. The Mark Morris fans obviously would have liked to see a win, as would have the players. But that was a situation. Marcus Marriott hits a go-ahead jumper with seconds left. Rothwell clinches the game with a shot not too long after that. Rothwell scored 23 points in that. Marcus Marriott with 16, and both of those guys have graduated, as has Will Berghardt of Mark Morris. Went on to play in Hilo, Hawaii now. And the one standout performer in that one, Tyler Berger for Mark Morris, scored 12, and he's now Mark Morris's leading scorer. Earlier this season, Mark Morris and R.A. Long played another close one. It was a 5-point victory for the Monarchs. Berghardt scored 26, Berger with 13. Rothwell hit 30. And the Mark Morris defense really started to focus on Marcus Marriott in that one. Both teams are substantially different this year, though. We got a post for Mark Morris as their leading scorer, and not just him, but Garrett Berger also. They're twins, and they're two dominant bigs, 6'4" and 6'5". And they can really score in bunches and also provide defense up in the front court. So along with R.A. Long, is they don't have one person who is who most would consider a real threat. There's no Kobe Rothwell who's going to drop double digits on a nightly basis. And so this is a situation where if I'm Mark Morris, I'm not quite sure who to key in on. There's Jacob Thompson. Connor Wallace is a wizard, a true point guard. He's not someone who will score in the double digits on a nightly basis, but he can shoot. Jacob Childers, who again will be joining us shortly, can score. Tanner Ribnicker also can score. So they have a lot of options there, and it'll be interesting to see who gets utilized the most, who Mark Morris does decide to key in on. And frankly, usually I have a very good idea of who that might be, and in this case I really have no idea. So I'm intrigued, as I'm sure the Longview, Kelso area is, and I'm looking forward to that one. And then Friday, the girls play. Easton Reeves of R.A. Long is lighting things up. Just scored 32 points against Woodland in a 65-66 win for Woodland. Woodland had a pretty decent lead heading into the second half and kept that rolling. But, man, R.A. Long came back and really put their foot down and throttled forward. Nearly tied it up at the free throw line. And so they're rolling with some real spirit, even though they didn't come away with a win against Woodland. They're not going to go down easy if they're behind, even if it's we're talking double digits, and so that should be an interesting game. On the Mark Morris side, Madison Mosier, Alexis Troy, Libby Bartleson, Those three girls are very hard to stop. You kind of, it's just a lot to focus on. Mark Morris is going to have to, or rather, R.A. Long will need to figure out a way to defend those three both, and it's really a situation where you might double team one and see if the other two can beat you that way without the help. If I'm given the matchups, excuse me, it's been a long. I'm coming off the holiday break, as I'm sure a lot of you folks are. So bear with me here. Alexis Troy and Bartleson, you look at those two, and they have size, but also speed and agility. R.A. Long has Bobby Clark, who's a freshman, but she's 6 foot, and especially as a freshman, that's tough to deal with. But I think she's going to have her hands full, but she's got the physical tools to do so. So that's another one that I expect a lot of excitement from. Mark Morris is a very, very good team this year, and that could be one where they take an early lead and don't cede it. But I still expect R.A. Long to continue to fight, continue to scrap. Ariana Marriott is talented as her brother is, and that they got some weapons there. So that can also be one that can go down to the wire again, as it did with Woodland tonight. So that's our recap a little bit. I'm going to go over some of the standings as Kelso, heading into league play, just got their first win of the season. Both the boys and the girls took down a win Wednesday, and so they start league play 1-0. And Castle Rock boys and girls got some work in tonight. Castle Rock now without Bryce DeSarmo, and the girls are hanging in there. They're they've struggled some, but again, it's the league's just starting. So one thing I also want to point out, Ilwaco, we've noted them a few times. We talked about them at the beginning of the season, Josh and I, and they've been everything that we thought they would be. They are 8-0 in the Pacific 2B, 11-1 overall, and they're a team that now we absolutely expect to see make a deep run into the postseason. Barring injury, as is always the case, but they have so much talent. The boys in the Pacific 2B for Ilwaco as well are a talented bunch, and they can threaten a lot of teams out there. Wahkiakum girls, another team that I'm going to highlight briefly. They're without a really, really potent scorer in Peyton Souvenir, and they haven't stopped. I mean, they just almost look better. They made a run into the postseason last year. Nobody's stopping him yet. I talked to Coach tonight, and he said, hey, we haven't played Adna and some other teams here, but they want that challenge. They feel up to the challenge, and they've shown now it's 6-0, 7-1 in overall, 6-0 in league, in the Central 2B there, that they can run with anybody. And so there it is. We're going to jump really quickly into my interview with Jacob Childers, and I wish everybody a very, very happy new year. Hi, welcome back to Preps Plus podcast. I'm here with Jacob Childers, forward R.A. Long basketball. And obviously you guys got the Civil War here. And my first question is, for you personally, how big of a game is this, or is it that much bigger?
Well, personally, it's a huge game because it's a rivalry game. It's kind of like Battle of the Borders. It's kind of like playing Kelso or whatever. You're just battling to see who's top dog, see who's the best in town, see who's the best in your city.
Right. And I'm sure Raleigh feels the same way. I know he gets pretty worked up and emotional about these.
Oh yeah, well he always gets, preparation. He always makes us over prepared than anything. So he's always on it, always helping us out.
Okay, how going back to the last Civil War game last year? How was that for you? And I know Raleigh was probably as emotional as you've ever seen him. But how was that for you and the rest of the guys?
Going into that, I was a sophomore. I was still young. I was 15 years old. So to see that big of a stage, to look up in the stands and see every seat's taken. There's people stand up in the back just to watch you guys play. To experience that and having those great leaders as seniors on those teams. To get them to end the streak. It's all over, and then to storm the court. It's just kind of, you look back on it almost every other day. Just like, wow, we actually did it. You just kind of pinch yourself. It's just like, it's one of those things like, you beat Morris, you did it.
Right, and that obviously broke a 28-game win streak for them. So that was something that on your guys' end, definitely wasn't a common occurrence, and on their end, I don't know what they were feeling, but with a streak that went on that long, I was just looking back at some of the games in the last just 2 years, and like February 9th of 2016, game is tied 33 at half, goes into OT, and obviously Monarchs win. Game before that, just would have been about 3 or 4 weeks before that, Lumberjacks have a 10-point lead, then a Mark Morris run and kind of changes the game. How much of those how would you describe that sort of thing? I know that you weren't playing a big role in those games in 2016, but how would you describe those games?
Well, when I was watching those games, I feel like almost every Civil War game, they're always close until it gets to the fourth quarter and Mark Morris will separate.
Right.
I just feel like that's just kind of been the tendency over the past few years, and it's just watching that. It's just kind of hard, but like I said, the seniors we had on last year's team, they just kind of, they learned from it. They watched their seniors fail, and it's just kind of tendency. And then, Wallace and Dre, they had us in the huddle, and they just let us know, like, this is when it comes down. You're gonna win off of your defense right here, and you just gotta buckle down because Morris, they're just a well-oiled machine. They're just a conveyor belt. But once you get once like things stops in the conveyor belt, the whole system shuts down.
Right.
So that's just kind of like the system we're going with. It just shut them down.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought up Jure and Raleigh. And how different are those two personalities?
Yeah, Jure, he's more up in your face guy, because he played for Morris, or he played for Bacchus and stuff. So he's just a prodigy of one of his players.
Right.
And have him come over. And it shows kind of some of the things that they used to do and stuff, but but Wallace, he's more laid back until like you kind of make him more mad and stuff. But I feel like that's with any coach. But Wallace, he's just kind of more about the basics, kind of go over the same thing over and over until you master it, and then go on to the next. You know? But both coaches are upbeat. They like to keep things upbeat. They like to keep things flowing to practice.
Do they kind of like to play off each other in different situations too?
Yeah, they kind of like, they ask, they come up with something, they'll ask each other, and then they'll mix both things, if it's a play or something, they have two ideas, and they just mix it, and you just get more reads off of it. Okay. And so then it just kind of more of an option-based.
Okay. And one thing, going back over the last couple of years, especially with Mark Morris. Mark Morris has for a long time had two primary scorers. One, they're number one, and then they're number two. That can kind of counterbalance things. Just last year, I think there was a game where they had two guys combined for the vast majority of their points, 50 points, and they had 74 total. So it was 2 years ago, excuse me. Whereas you guys, the scoring is distributed. One guy will have 15 points, another guy will have 12, another guy will have 12, another guy with 10, that sort of thing. So it's kind of a two-sided question. When you consider that, how much of that is based on the defense that they're showing you, and how much of that is just kind of the game plan going into it?
Well, with last year we had a Kobe Rothwell, we had a Marcus Marriott, we had a Ty, we had a Keone. We had legit elite scorers that we could just throw the ball to and say, take over the game. Kobe Rothwell, we just give him the ball. Say, fourth quarter, it's your game. Win it for us. Kind of the same thing with Mark Morris, but they've never had the big guy. They've always had the guards more of the scorers. Like a Will Brookhart or Mason Baker, somebody like that. But as in from last year to this year, we lost 6 seniors.
Yeah.
And 4 starters. So it's
and the majority are bigs.
No, yeah. And it's just kind of like we got to find who we are. We got to rebuild in the 2 weeks that they give us for tryouts, practice, or whatever before season starts.
Right.
Then you got preseason or whatever. But then you got to find out, okay, well, who's going to be our leader? Who's going to be our defensive leader? Who's going to be our scorer? Who's going to be our rebounder? Who's going to be our dirty guy? And so with that, it's just kind of like you just pass the ball, you just find. And with us, we just find whoever's got the hot hand.
Right.
We feed it to our big. He gets a few. You're going to double down on him, just kick the ball up, hit a shot. I think that's just kind of how we distribute points, because we're just in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Whoever's got the hot hand, feed him.
Right.
That's just kind of our approach to it.
Right. I know Connor too likes to be in that mold of like an old school point guard, where it's not, shoot. Okay, I'll pass it this time because I don't have a shot. How much of that kind of lends to the evenly distributed scoring?
Well, Connor, he's really good. If you put your hands up, the ball is right there. He just sees the court. He's just a quarterback. He just sees everything before it happens. And I think that's why, majority of us get our points. I'll just come off a screen or something, or I'll just come right behind him. He'll just toss me the ball. And the guys will go with him because Connor's just he's an attractor. He just attracts the defenders because he can drive in the hole, because he's super quick. And so with that, he just attracts people. Then he'll just drive in the lane, kick it out, get a shot.
Okay. And on for you guys on defense, kind of as I noted a second ago, they have 1 or 2 primary guys and then role players. How tough is it? Their primary guards, especially the guards in the past. Berger this year has had a ton of success. It doesn't matter who he's playing against. How tough are those guys to guard?
They're very good. The players Mark Morris has produced the past few years. They're just, you can't really stop them. You can only hold them back.
Okay.
So what you have to do going into it, you just have to annoy them. You just got to get in their brain, got to get under their skin a little bit, just make them uncomfortable. Because once you get uncomfortable, because they're not like in the flow of the game or something, because then you have them beat for that moment in time.
Right.
And then, let's say, they're really good 3-point shooters, and don't let them get a 3-point shot, but you don't want to let them see the ball go in the hoop, so don't give them a layup, don't foul them, don't let them get to the free throw line, because a good shooter, all you got to do is see the ball go in the hoop once, and then they're on.
Right.
So that's just a thing that's just been deadly. They're just really good. I've seen the ball go in the hoop, and then they just continually to do it.
Okay.
And like guarding Will Brookhart last year, me and Connor, we had a lot on our hands.
Right.
And we just made them uncomfortable. But once you make them uncomfortable, they don't just stop playing. They just keep going, and then they'll pass it, and then the role players become more dangerous, and then you got to guard the role players more, and then they say no, the elite scorer is open for a shot, and then he's going. So it's kind of a double-headed dragon, but at the same time, you just kind of. You don't want to look at it at the big picture. You just want to look at it as a simple task and then just shut them down. Okay.
How much does closing passing lanes come into that? Like just last year, the win for you guys, Berger had 12 points, Burkhart had 15. Was that a situation where you just felt like the less those guys have the ball, the better off you guys are defensively? Or
Yeah, I remember last year we just wanted them. We wanted somebody that wasn't a big time name to beat us. Let somebody off the bench come in and score 20. If that happens, so be it. Good night for them. Just don't let their main guys beat you.
Right.
Because if they beat you, then their role players gonna get in, and then you're not gonna pay attention much as role players, and their big name players just gonna dump it off.
Right.
And so it's hard. It's not easy to defend. But at the same time, we proved that we can do it. We hooked, Brookhart to 4 points in the second quarter last year, or in the second half last year. You know, he was the elite scorer. He was the league MVP.
Right.
You know, so I mean, it's just things like that. You gotta be in them all night. You can't take a break, because once you do, you can't get back.
Right. Being down Marcus, being down Kobe, Keone, just so many guys. How different is the feel of the team this year, and how different is the the game flow with several you guys stepping in as starters?
The main difference is just the offense. You can't replace a Kobe Rothwell or Marcus Marietta. Those guys are snipers. They just they can pull up from anywhere they wanted to. And then you have a Keone down there. He's just a big human. He's just all you got to do is put the ball up and it goes in. He's right there. You can't replace those guys. You can only fill their spots. And so that's kind of what we did this year, and that's why we spread the ball around. That's why we don't have a 25-guy game. We don't have somebody that's going to go out and do that. We have 4 guys who are going to go get you 10 points, 15 points, and 6-7 rebounds. But we're defensive focused. That's our thing. Everybody, the players and the coaches knew coming into the season we lost a lot last year, but you can't lose defense. Defense is just effort.
Right.
And so that's where we set our mind to is defense. Don't let your offense flow from your defense. Score and transition. If we don't have the half court game going, just get the ball and go. Just go play basketball.
Right. Okay. And so, kind of wrapping up here, what's your prediction of how the game's going to go?
I think it's 60-54 RLM.
Okay. All right. So 6 point margin. What makes you say that?
Well, the thing is about this group, we're not nervous. We've never been nervous or scared in a game ever. And so just to see the calms. Obviously there's gonna be some nerves, some more. Everybody's in town's gonna be there.
Right.
But our guys are more mature. We're mature even though we're young. We're mature mentally, and I think that our defense will be locked down. We work really hard in practice. We work really hard, and we focus on our drills every day, and we go over the little things more than enough. And I just think that with our defense, we're going to get the ball out. We're going to stop their scorers, and I think that we're going to have a good night, especially at home. We had a good finish to last year's. I think we're just going to start our own streak.
Okay. There you go. Well, that about wraps it up. Jacob Childers, RA Long Basketball. Got Civil War coming tonight by the time we post this, 7 p.m. So I'll probably see you there. I'll be there covering that game. Thanks to Sterling Auto Group, and I'll see you next time.